The stars over Earth were calm that night, shining like small fires across the endless dark. In the deep silence of space, signals and waves moved quietly, carrying voices no human ear could hear. For centuries, Earth's satellites had been listening, searching for a message from beyond. Many strange signals had been found before, but they were always natural sounds like the song of a pulsar or the hum of a black hole. Nothing had ever spoken back. That changed when a new signal reached Earth. It was weak, broken, and filled with static, but it was different. It carried a pattern, then words, though not in any human tongue. The signal repeated again and again like a cry that would not stop. Inside the Global Research Station in Geneva, scientists gathered around their screens. Dr. René, an old linguist who had studied alien codes all his life, leaned forward with wide eyes. His fingers tapped the keys quickly, breaking the pattern into small pieces. "This is no star noise," he whispered. This is a voice." For 2 days and nights, teams worked to decode it. Computers broke down the sound into numbers, then into simple structures, then finally into meaning. What they uncovered was chilling. The message came from a planet far beyond Earth's borders, thousands of light years away. It was not just sound. It was a call for help. The first line shook the scientists. "To anyone who can hear, we are dying. Please help us. Our cities burn. Our children scream. We cannot fight them." Images were hidden in the signal too. Blurry pictures showing tall towers falling under fire, skies filled with burning ships and crowds of thin, gray-skinned aliens running in terror. The scientists sat in silence as the last part of the message repeated, "We beg you, whoever you are, save us from the empire that destroys all." News of the signal spread quickly to the United Earth Council. Representatives from every nation met inside a giant hall that circled the Earth from orbit. The meeting was tense. Some leaders were cautious, warning that this might be a trap. Others argued that if the message was true, then refusing it would mean letting billions of lives vanish. General Mara, head of Earth's defense fleet, stood tall at the center of the chamber. She was a sharp-eyed woman known for her calm strength. Her voice carried across the hall. "Years ago, we swore never again to close our eyes to suffering. We learned that lesson on Earth itself. If these aliens beg for help, then humanity must answer. Not with weakness, not with fear, but with strength." Many nodded. Some still hesitated. But when the vote came, it was clear. Humanity would not ignore the call. The result was unanimous. The Council sent its order: mobilize the fleet. Earth had built its fleet over a century of peace mixed with caution. Old rivalries between nations had ended, but the memory of war had not vanished. Massive ships stood ready in orbit, crafted for defense but powerful enough for attack if needed. Carriers the size of mountains floated above the planet, holding squadrons of smaller craft. Dreadnoughts with thick armor and giant cannons rested silently like sleeping beasts. The announcement reached every corner of the world. Citizens poured into the streets, watching the skies as the fleet prepared. Families waved flags, sang songs, and prayed for safe return. Some worried, some feared, but all felt a heavy pride. For the first time, Earth was not moving for itself, but for strangers who needed saving. Commander Auric, chosen to lead the mission, walked through the docking bay of the flagship Resolute. His steps echoed against steel as crews rushed past him, loading supplies and checking systems. He looked out through the wide glass, seeing Earth below, a blue jewel turning slowly. A young officer walked beside him. "Sir, do you believe this is the right choice?" Auric kept his eyes on the planet. "We were once a world divided. We fought each other until the land bled, but we survived because someone always stood to defend the weak. If we turn away now, we forget who we are." The officer nodded quietly. Messages were prepared for the unknown aliens. Simple words, translated into the same code the distress signal had used. The message was clear. "We heard your cry. We are coming." When the signal left Earth, crossing light and darkness, the alien survivors on their broken world listened, their faces thin and weary, turned up to the sky as the human message reached them. They did not know who humans were or what they looked like, but hope spread among them like a fire. For the first time in years, they believed rescue was possible. Back on Earth, preparations reached their peak. Scientists loaded medical kits and food packs designed for any life form they could imagine. Engineers tested rail cannons and plasma launchers. Pilots trained in simulation, fighting ships they had never seen but could guess from the images in the distress call. In the council chamber, General Mara gave her final address to the fleet. You are not leaving to conquer. You are not leaving to take. You are leaving because someone cried for help and no one else answered. Humanity will be the hand that lifts the fallen. But hear me well. If those who destroy stand in your way, show them what Earth's wrath means. The soldiers saluted. The fleet's engines burned with white fire. One by one, ships rose from Earth's orbit, their metal bodies shining against the sunlight. Families below watched as streaks of light crossed the sky. Children pointed, whispering that their parents were flying to save the stars. As the Resolute led the formation, Commander Arik stood at the front of the bridge. His crew worked silently, each knowing the weight of their mission. Arik looked ahead into the endless dark. Set course, he ordered. Take us to the voice that called, engines roared. The stars stretched, and humanity's fleet leapt into the unknown, carrying not just weapons but the promise of hope. That night the galaxy remained unaware of what was coming. Empires still ruled with iron fists. Weak civilizations still trembled in fear. But far away in the silence between stars, something had changed. A new force had risen. A species that once struggled to survive on a small blue world now carried fire into the dark. They were not the oldest race. They were not the strongest, but they had made a choice no empire had dared to make. They had chosen to answer the cry. And from that moment, the story of humanity and the stars began. The fleet's departure from Earth was not just the movement of ships. It was the awakening of an entire species. For the first time in history, humanity was preparing not for war against itself, but for war beyond its own skies. The signal from the desperate aliens had united every nation, every council, and every hand. Factories worked without rest. Soldiers trained in every base, and engineers tuned their machines to perfection. From orbit, the sight was breathtaking. Giant carriers floated like islands in the void, their hulls glowing with light as crews rushed to ready them. Dreadnoughts, massive as cities, waited in silence, their cannons already charged. Smaller frigates darted between them like birds protecting their flock. Together they formed the greatest fleet humanity had ever gathered. On the ground, citizens lined rooftops and streets, staring into the heavens as columns of flame carried new ships upward. The world below was filled with both pride and fear. Pride because Earth had chosen to fight for more than itself. Fear because no one knew what waited beyond the stars. Commander Arik stood on the bridge of the flagship Resolute. His crew moved with precision, voices calm but firm as they checked systems. Every console was alive with green lights. Every station hummed with power. Arik's second officer, Lieutenant Vale, approached with a data slate. He was young, his face sharp, but his eyes carried both excitement and nerves. All ships report ready, sir. Supplies loaded, weapons charged. Crews in position. The fleet is prepared to leave orbit. Arik nodded slowly. He looked at the view before him. Earth turning quietly in the dark, its oceans glistening blue. Then the time has come. Vale hesitated. Sir, if I may ask, do you think we can really do this? We don't know the enemy. We don't know their strength. We don't even know if the survivors can hold until we arrive. Arik's gaze was steady. When I was a child, I once saw a fire spread through my village. The flames ate houses one after another. Everyone froze, too afraid to act. But one man stepped forward. He poured water. He pulled people out. He shouted until others followed. He could not stop the fire alone, but because he acted, many lived. That is who we must be now. We may not stop the flames everywhere, but if we can save even one city, one world, then we must try. Vale straightened and saluted. Yes, sir. In the council chamber above Earth, leaders gave their final blessings. General Mara addressed the captains through a live broadcast, her voice firm across every ship. You are not leaving as conquerors. You are leaving as guardians. You carry not only weapons but the honor of Earth. Remember why you go. Remember the voice that cried for help. Show mercy to the weak, but no mercy to those who bring destruction. If the empire of cruelty stands before you, show them what humanity has become. The words echoed through every corridor of the fleet. Soldiers nodded, engineers clenched their fists, and pilots tightened their helmets. Fear was still there, yes, but above it burned determination. In the docking bays of the Resolute, Marines stood in rows, their armor shining under bright lights. Sergeant Lynn walked past them, inspecting every soldier. Her voice cut through the noise. You are about to leave home. You will face an enemy none of us have seen. But remember this, fear belongs to them, not to us. They will learn what it means to face humans who fight for more than survival. We fight for justice. We fight because someone called and we answered. Stand tall. You are the shield of Earth. The Marines struck their fists against their armor in unison, the sound rolling like thunder, far from the fleet. In small towns and great cities, families said their farewells. On a rooftop in New Delhi, a girl waved to the sky, whispering that her brother would return a hero. In the snowy fields of Siberia, parents prayed for their son aboard a frigate. In the deserts of Africa, drums beat as tribes blessed their warriors leaving for the stars. The whole planet watched as fire rose upward, carrying their hope into the night. When the moment came, the fleet aligned itself. Hundreds of ships stretched in formation, their engines burning like stars. On the bridge of the Resolute, Commander Auric gave the order. Activate the gate drive. Energy built across the fleet, rippling like waves through the void. A great light tore open before them, a hole in space itself. Beyond it lay the unknown, the path to the alien world that had cried for help. Transmit message to the survivors, Auric said. Tell them we are on our way. Vale nodded, pressing the command. A clear signal shot into the void, carrying simple words in the same code as the distress call. We heard your cry. We come with fire and hope. Hold on. Humanity is coming. On the distant world, across broken cities and burning skies, the survivors gathered around old machines, listening, their gray faces lifted as the message reached them. The weak light of their homes reflected in their wide eyes. They could hardly believe it. For generations they had begged and no one had answered. Now a new voice had promised them hope. Mothers hugged their children. The elderly whispered prayers. Warriors too tired to fight gripped their weapons once more, ready to hold out until help arrived. Back in space, the fleet prepared for the jump. Fleet ready, Vale reported. Coordinates locked. Engines charged. Auric stood tall at the center of the bridge. His eyes shone with calm fire. He raised his hand. Then let us go. For Earth. For those who called. The order echoed across every ship. Jump, the engines roared. Space bent. Light stretched into rivers. One by one, ships vanished into the gate, leaving Earth behind. As the fleet crossed the void, silence filled the bridge. Crews stared at the endless blur of stars passing around them. For many, it was their first time leaving the safety of the solar system. Hearts raced, but no one spoke of turning back. Commander Auric finally broke the silence. We carry more than weapons, he said quietly. We carry the promise that no cry for help will go unanswered. Remember that. The crew listened. Some smiled faintly. Some straightened in their seats. Hours turned into days. The fleet traveled through gates, moving farther from home than humanity had ever gone. Along the way, they practiced drills, checked weapons, and trained again and again. Fighters launched and returned. Marines ran combat scenarios, and engineers tightened every bolt. The fleet was ready, not just in steel but in spirit, and always the message from the survivors replayed in their minds. The broken voices, the burning cities, the plea for help. It drove them forward faster, fiercer. Finally, the warning came. Approaching system, Vale reported. His voice shook slightly with excitement. Coordinates matched the distress origin. Preparing to exit gate. The crew straightened. Hearts pounded. Weapons charged, Auric's voice was steady. This is what we came for. Prepare all ships. Marines to stations. Pilots to launch bays. Medical teams ready. The fleet slowed. The stars came back into focus. And before them lay the alien world. Smoke rose from its surface. Fires burned across its continents. In orbit, enemy warships circled like wolves over prey. The bridge fell silent. Every eye turned to Auric. He looked at the burning world, then at his crew. His voice cut through the silence, calm and iron. Transmit to all ships, he said. This is humanity's first step into the galaxy. Let it be known, we did not come to watch. We came to fight. Prepare to strike. Engines roared. Weapons glowed. The fleet of Earth moved forward, not as conquerors, but as avengers answering a call. And thus began the battle that would change the galaxy forever. The fleet of Earth emerged from the gate like a storm of fire. One moment, the dark sky above the alien world was filled only with the enemy's warships. The next, hundreds of human vessels appeared, engines burning bright, cannons already alive with energy. On the bridge of the flagship Resolute, Commander Auric stood tall. His eyes studied the sight before him. The alien planet below was scarred with flame. Cities burned. Smoke stretched into the sky. Around it, enemy warships moved like vultures. Some fired on the surface, others patrolled, their weapons aimed downward. Orcs' second officer, Lieutenant Vale, clenched his fists. "They are bombarding civilians, sir. Whole cities are under fire." Orcs' voice was calm but iron. "Then humanity will show them their crime ends now." He raised his hand. "Transmit message to all ships. Prepare to engage." The message spread across the fleet. Crews rushed to battle stations. Pilots climbed into fighters, sealing helmets as engines roared. Marines checked weapons, securing armor and strapping into boarding pods. Engineers monitored power levels, sweat running down their faces as lights blinked red across the consoles. On every ship, one thought burned in every heart. This was humanity's first battle beyond Earth. The galaxy would watch, and history would remember. The enemy noticed the newcomers. Their ships turned sharply, weapons lighting up. On their command ship, the enemy admiral snarled. To him, humans were unknown, a small and young species that had dared to interfere. His orders spread quickly. Destroy the intruders. Orcs' eyes hardened as the first enemy weapons fired. Red beams cut through the void, racing toward the human fleet. Raise shields, Orc shouted. All ships, return fire. The battle began. The dreadnoughts of Earth roared to life, their cannons spitting blue fire across the darkness. Beams of light struck enemy cruisers, tearing them apart in bursts of flame. Carriers released swarms of fighters, small but fast, weaving through enemy lines and striking weak points with deadly precision. Frigates darted around the larger ships, their missiles hitting targets like hammers against stone. The first wave of enemy ships crumbled under the sudden fury. They had expected an easy fight, another helpless prey. Instead, they faced a storm of steel and fire unlike anything they had ever known. On the surface of the alien world, survivors looked up in shock. For years, they had watched helplessly as enemy ships rained fire on their homes. Now the sky was alive with new light. Strange vessels fought the invaders, their weapons burning brighter than suns. The survivors did not know these new warriors, but they saw something they had not seen in years: hope. Children pointed at the sky, shouting with excitement. Parents held each other, whispering prayers. Old warriors, too weak to lift their weapons, raised their hands in salute to the strangers above. On the bridge of the Resolute, Vale's voice shook with disbelief. Sir, we are breaking their lines. Their ships are pulling back. Arik's tone was steady. Press forward. Do not let them recover. Show them who we are, the fleet obeyed. Human ships moved like a single blade cutting through the enemy. The invaders tried to regroup, but every move was met with precise, relentless strikes. Inside one of the boarding pods, Sergeant Lin gripped her rifle. Around her, Marines waited, silent but ready. The pod shook violently as it tore through space, aimed at an enemy cruiser. Lights flickered, alarms blared, but not one soldier looked away. Lin's voice was calm, firm. Remember why we fight. Not for conquest. Not for power. For the children on that world below. For the voice that begged for help. We are the answer. We are humanity. The pod slammed into the enemy hull. Explosives tore open metal. Marines stormed through the breach, rifles firing with precision. The enemy fought back, but humans advanced like a tide that would not stop. Within minutes, the cruiser was theirs. The invaders were forced out or captured. Humanity had taken its first alien ship in history. Back in orbit, the enemy admiral watched in disbelief. His empire had ruled the stars for centuries, crushing world after world. No one had ever dared resist. Yet these newcomers fought with a ferocity he had never seen. Every human ship struck with purpose. Every fighter moved with skill. Every Marine attacked with unshakable courage. For the first time, fear spread through the enemy ranks. The admiral gave the order to retreat. Their ships began to pull back, breaking formation, fleeing into the dark. On the bridge of the Resolute, cheers erupted. But Arik did not smile. His eyes stayed locked on the fleeing enemy. They retreat today, he said quietly, but they will return, stronger. We have shown them humanity's fire, but the war has only begun. As silence returned to orbit, the fleet gathered near the alien planet. Medical ships descended through the clouds carrying doctors and supplies. Dropships landed in ruined cities, unloading food and medicine. Marines helped survivors out of the rubble, lifting children into their arms, giving water to the weak. One alien elder, his skin scarred from battle, looked up at the human soldiers. His voice was broken but filled with gratitude. You came. No one ever came before. We thought we were alone, but you are different. The Marines bowed their heads. One answered simply, "We are human, and we do not ignore a cry for help." That night, fires still burned across the alien world, but now they were joined by lights of hope. Survivors gathered in camps set up by human crews. Children laughed for the first time in years. Songs were sung around small fires. Warriors swore oaths to stand with their new allies. On the bridge of the Resolute, Commander Orcs stood alone, looking out at the stars. Vale approached quietly. "Sir," he said, "we have done what we came for. The enemy is driven back. The survivors are safe. This is a victory." Orcs' eyes were steady. "Yes, but it is only the beginning. The enemy now knows our name. They will come for us. And when they do, we must be ready. Today we saved one world. Tomorrow we may face the galaxy itself." Vale was silent for a moment, then nodded. "Then we will face it together. Humanity does not run." Arik allowed the faintest of smiles. "No, humanity does not run." Across the galaxy, news began to spread. Whispers carried from ship to ship, world to world. A new species had appeared. They were not old, not powerful, not many, but they had done what no one else dared. They had struck back against the Empire. The oppressed listened with wonder. The oppressors listened with fear. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. The alien skies were filled with smoke and ash, yet the fires of hope burned brighter than ever. Humanity's fleet had shown its strength, driving back the enemy forces that had ruled the planet with fear and cruelty. The survivors worked tirelessly, rebuilding what they could while human engineers repaired cities and prepared defenses. But Commander Arik knew the victory was temporary. The oppressors were strong. They would return, and they would come with vengeance. The galaxy's balance had shifted, and Earth's arrival had ignited a storm that would not fade. In the fleet above, ships prepared for the inevitable retaliation. Weapons were tested. Fighters were launched and recovered. Marines drilled for boarding and planetary assault, while engineers calculated power flows for maximum efficiency. The fleet had grown more than just physically. Its crews had bonded in the fire of battle. They knew each other's strengths, trusted each other's skills, and carried the pride of a species united under one purpose. Arik walked the corridors of the Resolute, observing the crews. Pilots trained in simulated combat, firing on ghost ships that flickered like distant stars. Marines checked armor and weapons again and again, each motion precise and disciplined. Engineers monitored reactor cores and shield generators, aware that even the smallest mistake could cost lives. "Sir," Lieutenant Vale reported, appearing at the bridge. His tone was urgent but calm. "We have detected an incoming fleet. It is massive. Estimates suggest at least 3 times the size of what we faced earlier. They are heading straight for the planet." Arik's jaw tightened. He studied the readings on the display. The enemy was not sending scouts or smaller raiding parties. They were coming fully prepared, determined to reclaim what they had lost. "Alert all ships," he commanded. "All crews to battle stations. Prepare to meet them head-on. Humanity does not wait for war. Humanity creates it when needed." Across the alien planet, survivors watched the sky. The largest of the enemy ships appeared first, a dark shadow blocking the stars. Smaller vessels swarmed around it like insects, their weapons lighting the heavens. Panic threatened to take hold, but human Marines moved among the civilians, providing reassurance and guidance. "Stay calm," Sergeant Lin shouted, helping children to shelters. "We are here. Humanity fights for you. You will not fall." The survivors clutched her words. They had seen humans strike with unmatched precision, and now they understood that Earth's warriors would not falter, even against overwhelming odds. In space, the enemy armada advanced. Red and orange beams of energy shot from their weapons, cutting trails through the void. But humanity's fleet was ready. Dreadnoughts roared with cannons blazing. Fighters launched in hundreds, diving into the oncoming swarm with unmatched skill. Every ship moved like part of a single organism, coordinated and relentless. The first clash was brutal. Enemy ships struck with fury, but they underestimated human tactics. Earth's fleet used combined attacks. Frigates distracted while carriers unleashed waves of fighters. Dreadnoughts fired devastating salvos to cripple the larger enemy vessels. Explosions blossomed across the void, lighting the darkness like fireworks. "Target the command ships," Arik ordered. "Break their formation. Show them they cannot control the galaxy." Pilots obeyed instantly. Fighter squadrons darted between massive enemy vessels, striking engines and weapons arrays with precision. Human technology, honed through centuries of survival and battle, proved faster and more resilient than anything the enemy had expected. On board one of the enemy cruisers, alarms blared. Officers scrambled to respond, but every move was countered. The humans had prepared for every scenario. Every attack seemed to anticipate the enemy's next step. Meanwhile, on the ground, human engineers activated defensive weapons. Laser turrets and energy barriers blazed across the landscape, protecting refugee zones. Drones flew into orbit, relaying enemy positions back to the fleet. Civilians watched in awe as humanity combined intelligence, technology, and courage to defend a world that was not even theirs. One of the survivors, a young alien named Lyra, whispered to a child beside her, "These humans, they are different. They do not fear. They do not wait. They act." Hours passed. The enemy fleet fought with desperation, sending wave after wave of ships to overwhelm the humans. Yet each wave was met with a counterstrike that shattered their lines. Human dreadnoughts fired in unison, obliterating the larger vessels. Fighters and frigates moved in perfect coordination, cutting through smaller ships like a storm through grass. The enemy realized their tactics were failing. Their armada was being torn apart, not because humans were stronger individually, but because they fought as one. Every ship, every crew, every pilot and marine acted with the same resolve: protect the weak, punish the oppressor. At the center of the battle, Commander Arik remained calm. His eyes scanned the tactical displays, his mind already planning the next move. "We have broken their first wave," he said. "Now press forward. Do not give them a moment to regroup. Let them feel the full strength of Earth's wrath." Vale nodded. "Yes, sir. All ships are ready for the final strike." Arik turned toward the viewports, looking at the enemy's command ship, a massive fortress of metal and fire. "Focus everything on their heart," he ordered. "End this and show the galaxy what humanity means." The final strike began. Fighters dove into the enemy's strongest ships, distracting them while dreadnoughts unleashed concentrated energy blasts. Carriers launched swarms of guided missiles that tore through shields. Explosions rocked the void, and the command ship shuddered under the combined assault. On board, the enemy admiral's face was pale. His empire, once thought invincible, was falling. Their soldiers retreated or surrendered. The oppressors who had crushed worlds and civilizations now faced the unyielding force of a young species that refused to bow. In the aftermath, silence filled space. Smoke and debris floated among the stars. Humanity's fleet remained in formation, engines still glowing, weapons ready, but the enemy threat had been neutralized. Victory was theirs. Commander Arik looked down at the alien planet below. Cities still smoldered, but the fires of hope were now alive. Survivors emerged from shelters, cheering as human ships remained overhead. For the first time in generations, the oppressed people looked to the sky and smiled, knowing someone answered their call. Vale spoke quietly beside Arik. "We did it." "They are defeated." Arik's gaze remained on the horizon. "Today we struck a blow for justice. Tomorrow the galaxy will remember that humanity does not bow, does not fear, and does not forget. We fight for the weak and we punish the cruel. That is our way." Across the galaxy, news of humanity's wrath spread like wildfire. Systems long enslaved whispered stories of a young species from a blue world that had torn apart an empire. The oppressed saw hope and the oppressors trembled. Humanity had made its mark not through conquest but through justice, courage, and strength. Back on the alien planet, survivors began rebuilding. Children played in the streets under the watchful protection of human soldiers. Parents tended to their families, no longer hiding from the sky. And humans, though far from home, worked tirelessly to ensure the world would rise again, stronger and safer. Commander Arik stood once more on the bridge of the Resolute. Stars stretched into infinity before him, but he did not see emptiness. He saw purpose. Humanity had come to the galaxy not to conquer, but to protect, and the galaxy would learn that lesson in every corner. He spoke softly, more to himself than anyone else. "Let the galaxy know, when Earth's wrath is unleashed, no oppressor survives. We will fight for those who cannot fight, and we will never stop." Behind him the fleet waited, engines still glowing, weapons ready. Humanity had proven itself. The galaxy had been warned, and in that silence the first true moment of peace settled over the alien world, a calm forged in the fire of justice and courage. The battle had ended, but the galaxy was forever changed. Smoke still rose from alien cities that had been under siege, but life slowly returned. Humanity's fleet remained in orbit, not as conquerors but as guardians. Their presence was a promise. The weak would no longer suffer alone, and the cruel would face justice. Commander Arik stood on the bridge of the flagship Resolute, looking down at the alien world below. Children were playing in streets that had been battlefields hours ago. Survivors waved to the ships, cheering and calling out in languages humans barely understood. Lieutenant Vale approached quietly, his eyes scanning the reports on his console. "Sir, the enemy empire is in full retreat. Their fleets are shattered. Systems under their control are sending messages begging for ceasefires." Arik nodded. "Good. Let them understand what happens when they harm the innocent. But remember this, our fight was never to destroy. It was to defend. Leave the future of this world in the hands of its people." On the surface, human engineers and marines worked alongside the aliens to rebuild their cities. Towers once broken were reconstructed, hospitals were restored, and food and water supplies were distributed carefully to those who had lost everything. A human doctor, Dr. Kira, tended to wounded aliens with gentle hands. "You survived," she said softly to one of the children. "And now you will live to see better days." The child smiled weakly, but hope shone in their eyes for the first time in years. Nearby, a group of Marines taught survivors to defend themselves. They were not training for conquest, but for protection. Weapons were handled carefully. Drills were simple and precise, and lessons focused on unity and courage. Humanity was teaching more than combat. They were teaching resilience. Above, in orbit, the fleet remained vigilant. Enemy signals were still detected, but they were weak and disorganized. Systems that had once obeyed the oppressors were now questioning their loyalty. Small rebellions sparked across the galaxy, emboldened by the knowledge that humanity had arrived and that a species could rise to defend the helpless. Captain Laren, aboard one of the carriers, spoke to her crew. "Remember this, we are not heroes for the glory. We are heroes because we choose to fight when others do not. The galaxy will watch what we do, and it will learn what humans stand for." In a council meeting aboard the Resolute, Commander Arik addressed the fleet. Representatives from every major ship gathered around a glowing table. Holograms of systems under siege floated above, showing what had been saved and what remained in danger. "Humanity did not come here to conquer," Arik began. "We came because someone cried for help and no one else answered. Today we have struck a blow for justice. Tomorrow we will leave these worlds free, and the galaxy will remember that if you call for help, we will answer. But if you bring harm, we will bring wrath." There was silence for a moment, and then the crews of the fleet nodded. They understood. Their victory was not for themselves, but for the principles of courage and protection. The alien survivors, once trembling under the fear of oppression, now spoke with confidence. Lyra, a young leader among them, met with human officers. "Your people. They came when we had lost all hope. We cannot thank you enough." Arik smiled faintly. "You do not need to thank us. Humanity fights not for reward, but because no one should suffer alone. Take your world back. Build it as you wish. And remember, the future is yours to protect." Other aliens began forming councils to rebuild their civilizations, inspired by humans' example. They spoke of unity, courage, and justice, values that had been shown by the strangers who came from the stars. In the following days, humanity began preparing to leave. Supplies were loaded onto ships. Marines boarded vessels, and the fleet aligned itself for departure. The alien world was safe for now. Its skies would be clear, its cities would grow, and its people would remember the blue fleet that had appeared like fire in the darkness. Before leaving, Arik gave a final speech to the assembled crews. His voice carried over every ship and every channel. "Today we leave this world in the hands of its people. We do not conquer. We do not rule. But we have shown that Earth will answer the call of the weak and the desperate. Let this be a warning to those who think cruelty can thrive unchecked. Humanity fights for justice. Humanity protects the innocent. Humanity does not run, and the galaxy will remember it." As the fleet jumped back into the gates carrying humanity further into the stars, the galaxy watched. Some systems sent messages of gratitude. Others whispered warnings to their neighbors. Everywhere, civilizations were inspired by a species that had risen not for power, but for protection. On board the Resolute, Arik looked out at the stars. He saw not just light and darkness, but a galaxy full of possibilities. He thought of Earth, of the people who had watched the fleet depart, and of every cry that would be answered in the future. Humanity had begun a legacy. Vale approached, placing a hand lightly on his shoulder. "Sir, what now?" "Where do we go from here?" Arik smiled faintly. "We go where we are needed. We will answer the cries of the helpless wherever they appear. The galaxy is wide and injustice is endless, but so is humanity's resolve." In the weeks that followed, humanity's fleet continued to patrol nearby systems. Small relief missions were carried out. Scientists and engineers aided planets recovering from oppression. Marines and pilots trained with local defenders. Each action reinforced the lesson: Earth did not come to take, but to protect. News of humanity spread faster than any fleet. Civilizations whispered the name of the blue world that had struck an empire down in a single battle. The oppressed found courage. The oppressors learned fear. And somewhere across the stars, every child who had cried for help knew that they were not alone. On the alien planet, Lyra spoke to a crowd of survivors. Children sat cross-legged in the dirt, listening to the story of humans who had come like fire from the sky. They did not conquer. They did not take. They came because someone called for help, and they showed us that hope can arrive when it seems lost. Remember this always. Build your world with courage and justice, and never forget what they taught us. Cheering rose across the crowd. The fires of the past still burned, but now they were joined by the light of hope, stronger and brighter. Commander Arik, watching from orbit, turned to his bridge crew. "We leave now. Our duty is done here, but the galaxy is vast. Somewhere out there, someone else may need us. Humanity will answer, and when we do, we will strike with the same courage, the same strength, and the same justice." Vale looked out at the alien world below, peaceful now for the first time in generations. "Sir, the galaxy will remember Earth," Arik nodded. "Yes, and it will remember what humanity stands for. We do not conquer. We do not steal. We protect. We fight for the weak, and we will always answer the call." The fleet aligned once more, engines roaring like thunder in the void. As the ships leapt into the gate, leaving the alien planet behind, the stars themselves seemed to shine brighter. Humanity's legacy had begun, not with conquest, not with domination, but with courage, hope, and the unwavering choice to defend the helpless. The galaxy had seen Earth's fury, but it had also seen Earth's heart. And from that day forward, civilizations across the stars would remember the lesson humanity had taught. When the innocent call for help, humanity answers. When the cruel rise, humanity strikes. And when the galaxy doubts the strength of a young species from a small blue world, it will never doubt again.